This was a hard episode.
You ready to be sad? Yeah. I'm ready to be sad.
I'm gonna cry.
I feel bad, actually, for putting everybody through this, but it had to be done. Emotional.
Why do you love to hurt people?
I love to hurt people because it shows that we can heal.
I guess
Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, but okay. I will cry. I'm not joking. I already feel myself tearing up. So before that, let's do a recap.
Done. Chloe and Luke are being chased down by Halen's men. They don't know that, but Halen's on the hunt for them. Ryan opens up and tells her past to John in a threatening way, and then she also kind of has a moment of, I guess, being tricked into this respectful partnership with Hanlon. Kieran and Declan end up cornering Chloe and capturing her and taking her to a drive-in theater. And then our hero, Sarah, comes and saves the day. And now we're off. And yeah. And
you think for the first bit, things look pretty good.
They do. We get a little flashback. That's nice.
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah. I'm already thinking about it. So this episode actually opens with a flashback. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, it was an idea I had early on where I kind of wanted to show where the characters were like the moment after the Lassified movie ended. So we got that with Ryan, where we see like her with the bloody hair in episode 1 and thinking about like full-blown revenge and just being that pissed off wolf that she is. But for Sarah, I always kind of wondered, like, I wonder what she did once she's off screen and then once Seth and Chloe turn around. So we get that in this, where we see, like, she doesn't quite make it the whole way. She stops, turns around, and sees that, like, they're walking away. So I think for a moment, she's like, should I follow them? No, I really need to find my family. And then she goes. And then we cut to a epic montage of Chloe and Sarah kicking butt. But yeah, I wanted to show that moment, like, a second after the movie ends. And you even hear, like, original audio from the movie from it, the conversation they're having where Chloe calls Seth a dumbass, which was a Phoebe line, because I believe I had it written as "you're an idiot," and Phoebe didn't feel like that was vulgar enough, so we had to go a little worse.
I love it. And what was it like to shoot that flashback scene that is so, I mean, you're recreating the film.
Well, everybody was in their own gear, like their original gear. It was surreal. Like, seeing it was surreal. We obviously, like, the one peek behind the curtain is we couldn't get the same location because we couldn't go back to Barrington again just because of scheduling and COVID-19. But it is pretty close, and seeing it, there was moments of like, what shoot am I on? Because it all looks the same. The only thing that was telling, and you won't see this in the episode because it's been digitally altered, is that the only thing that I knew, like, okay, we're in this new one, is that Tia's hair was pink. And it was like, okay, no, never mind, we're still in this. It was surreal to kind of go back to that and see everybody in their wardrobe again.
Something else happens in this episode that I am all here for. That I'm sure
Poor Dillon.
Everybody else at home also got up, applauded when this happened. It was like the coolest, most badass thing I've ever seen in my life, which was Ryan. First of all, John being a real jerk.
Jackass.
Yeah, thank you. And then you just see Ryan so swiftly just be like,
boom. Yep.
Unreal. Unreal. So you knew that he was always going to die, like.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to build that tension. It's funny because I didn't realize this until we cast Dillon as the character of John, that there are a little bit of similarities between him and Colby, like visually, kind of, who played Seth in the original movie. I think John reminds Ryan of what Ryan believes Seth is, when really Seth isn't that, but it's almost like this manifestation of, yeah, like, oh yeah, that's what Seth is in my head. Like this piece of crap, doesn't care about anybody, just like morals out the window, little brat type of thing. And then he goes too far because he starts being a sexist little idiot and then says some really mean stuff. So yeah, Hanlon it's almost another test for Ryan. Like, because once he starts hearing John go off about his BS, he gives a look to Ryan where it's like, you gonna do anything about this? And he just so happens to have the gun like closer to her and all that stuff. It's a test for like, are you gonna be loyal? Are you gonna be a loyal dog in this pack, and are you gonna put down the weak dog? Or are you just gonna let this happen? And Hanlon, sure enough, was right. Like, no, okay, I have her under my control. She did exactly what I wanted to happen. Now we can move forward.
On the flippity side of things, this episode also opens with like having this sense of hope, I think, like for
Yeah.
Sarah and for Chloe, because
Absolutely.
they finally found each other again.
Yeah.
And then they find this, like,
Slice of paradise.
yes, yeah.
It's cool too because like we kind of mirrored a moment like in the end of the movie when Chloe and Seth find each other, they kind of run towards each other and they hug. We shot that moment kind of the same way with Sarah and Chloe, where like Chloe says, "Can I hug you?" Sarah says, "Of course you can," and they kind of run towards each other. So it was like it was a little bit of mirroring of the original film, which there is a bit of this in this show. I just felt like they're together and they needed to be together. But once they get to that little slice of paradise, it's like everything feels a little better now because we just saw Chloe go through like hell and back, and it's the first time where everything's calm. It's a serene lake. It's beautiful greens. Like it is this nice area. So yeah, they both deserve it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And
We got lucky too with that location because it was a friend of a friend who was also working on the show, Kim Moser, who was doing our locations and unit publicist. She ended up finding this location because another show was filming at the time and they took all the cabins, so we couldn't find any. But thankfully we had this place and it ended up being like this perfect spot. It's so beautiful. And I think all of us wanted to go there and just stay there.
And the owners wanted us to stay
They
as
did.
well.
Yeah,
I have
they said
to
like
say.
to have parties there and everything.
They were
so,
like,
yeah.
come by anytime, any of you. Like, we chatted for like 1 second, and they were like,
Yeah.
yeah, come stop anytime. Don't even call ahead. Just stop by. So we're gonna do that. I'm holding them to
Cool.
that. We are gonna go. No, you're right. It has this like sense of hope. They're back together again. But then they start to catch up.
It's like they both have something to say, but they won't say it out loud almost immediately. Yeah, you can see like there's a moment. I tried with this too. Like me and the DOP Chelsea, we talked about how do we show inner thoughts and inner emotions that aren't necessarily part of the conversation. So like you and I are talking, and then we have a camera there, we have a camera there. When there's sort of an introspective moment between characters and like we're revealing something to the audience that maybe the characters within the scene aren't seeing, I always went profile with it. So you kind of see the side angle and you're just seeing a little bit of sliver of their face. And we get that with this with Sarah when she's looking out the window and Chloe says, "I think we need to catch up." There's something deep that Sarah doesn't want to talk about. But then she puts on the smile, she puts on the Kelsey mask and says like, "All right, let's go make s'mores," like the way that Sarah does. So they both have something that is hidden, that is revealed in this episode, which I'm sure you're gonna love when we talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Let's get into some deep stuff. You ready to get into some really deep, traumatizing information?
I need to seriously, after this, really evaluate your mental health. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about when they catch up at the fireplace.
Yes, which is where all
And-
great conversations happen in Nova Scotia, around a fire pit.
Around a fire pit,
Yeah.
you're so right. That conversation between the two of them and catching up. And it's at this point that we really find out more about Sarah, especially.
Which we did not talk about a lot in the movie at all. Like she was very much character Kelsey. Like we didn't learn much about Sarah. No, it was, so within this segment, because obviously everybody's seen the episode, you know, we reveal that her family is alive and that they run into each other, but also that she has a younger sister that we didn't know about, and the big reveal, she's was adopted by this family. The adoption thing and the idea of Lana and all them, like the mother making them leave Sarah behind, I had in place even during the movie. So before the scene in the movie where Seth and Chloe hug each other, I told Tia, I said, "Listen, don't repeat this, but this is where Sarah is at." And I told her that you are adopted, but your adopted family does not choose you. Like they leave you behind. So there's a moment in the movie when we sort of pan over and we see Sarah leaning against a tree, and she's happy to see the two together, but then there's something kind of hurting her inside, and that is directly like she knows that, you know, she was adopted and like kind of where it's going. So Tia had that information prior to, and it was cool to see it like come to fruition and actually happen. It was also important to me too because I wanted each of the main three, Chloe, Ryan, and Sarah, to have a different dynamic in terms of family, where Chloe was kind of holding on to the family and trying to keep it together. Ryan was, you know, viscerally against everybody in the family. and Sarah was, you know, kind of left behind, chosen, and then not chosen. Like, they all have different dynamics and coming from trauma in their own different ways.
Oh, how, may I ask, like, how did you come up with that storyline?
I was looking at a lot of different documentaries and stories about kind of child neglect, and I was looking at that and seeing, like, man, it's so effed up that, like I just don't get how a parent could do that. Like, obviously there's situations where adoption is like the best case scenario, and I'm not crapping on adoption. It's more the way that people treat their kids and all that stuff. And I was looking into that, and I'm saying, like, what would be the hardest thing to get through? Well, the hardest thing to get through as a human, I feel, in terms of family placement, would be not being chosen by your actual family, and then getting to the point where you have a family that chooses you, but then they choose not to choose you anymore. Like, it's how much heavier can you get with that? That, and I wanted to take Sarah and give her the most sort of tragic backstory, because she is so peppy and optimistic and happy that, like, let's really break her, like, down, and you get to see, like, how strong she is, because she does put on that smile, despite the fact that she has no reason to. Like,
it is a devastating
Yeah.
scene, and you're right. Like, she goes and talks to the mother, and it's revealed to her that she can't go, and she is heartbroken. But then when she has to come back and talk to Lana and fake like why she's not going to go, and still have a smile on her face, and then they leave, and she just, like,
collapses.
it's a really hard episode.
And Lana calls her out right away, because she knows.
Yeah.
But what I love too, and Lara, who plays Lana, was so perfect with this. She also had that kind of thing that Phoebe has, where she plays this maturity so above her age. So Lana, as a character, I think, at least in my opinion, Lana knows that, you know, Sarah is not telling the truth, but she also understands that, like, it wasn't her choice. She knows that the parents made this really bad decision, and she's not gonna get mad at Sarah for it. She's just really upset that, like, man, we went all this way, and now, shit, like, we have to leave you again. So it shows, like, it's that theme of, you know, the kids becoming the adults in any situation. As another example of, like, a young 10-year-old character like Lana becoming the most mature one in the room because the parents are a-holes. Yeah.
Heavy stuff, heavy stuff.
That's pretty light, I think. Yes, we shot those scenes of the flashback at the Hubbard's Beach Campground and Cottages, which is a perfect location for it. It also gave that kind of Western wooden feel to it, which I love. But it was so cool, and it was so also emotional, because it was like one of our last few days on set that we ended it with, like, the most highly emotional kind of moment of Sarah's story. But seeing everything come together, like Kristyn and Keith, who play the mother and father, they were perfect. Keith kind of playing this, like, kind of like a father that's in the shadow of the mother, like yes dear type of person. But then you have, you know, Lana, who's, like, really funny and, like, sassy as hell, saying, like, oh, you need to wash your hair, dirtbag. What I also loved within Sarah's story is that you see her kind of come out of her shell, because she gets really kooky. Like, when she's telling the story of, like, and then I snuck up behind Ryan and all that, you're seeing it pour out. And it's like, that is the most innocent and truest form of Sarah I think we've seen yet. And it's just, it all kind of builds and builds and builds until that very sad moment of, like, leaving them behind. But it just adds, I think, to Sarah's strength and her perseverance, and I think her care for other people, where, you know, she decides not to make a huge stink because she knows she doesn't want to hurt Lana. And I think Sarah's adopted mother's line about, you know how bad it feels to be left behind. It's like, what a jackassy thing to say. Like, it's the meanest thing to say. Like, yeah, you're adopted. You know what it feels like to be left behind. It's like, what the hell? It all came together really well, and it's so cool that moment that has been in my mind all the way since September 2017, like, wow, coming to fruition. It was cool.
I bet. And it was such a hard conversation too, because you're like, we can't understand the circumstance. Like, we can't understand this family trying to navigate, when the world ends. So when they have this conversation with her, half of you is like, it is like, oh, you want to understand, and then but the other half is like, how could you leave this person and you
want to throw your TV out of a window.
Yeah. And the conflict that you even feel while you're watching it of because again, you just don't know what it's like to Anyway, so, just a lot. It was a lot.
Yes.
It was a lot. I hope that doesn't come up again in the show.
No wonder we get along so well. We were a wreck.
So we've talked about one sad thing.
Yeah.
Should we get to the other one?
Yeah, let's get it over with.
Okay, cool.
Let's get it over with.
So, up until this point, we had been teasing in a way that Chloe's brother was somewhere. They were meeting up real soon, and that necessarily wasn't the truth. I wanted to create kind of a question within the audience right away of something that we would return to often but wouldn't explain until much deeper into the story, which was the dream sequence where we see Chloe's hand on a wooden handle. We don't know quite what it is, and then she walks into the house, and then we reveal, like, okay, well, wait a minute. Now we see her face. She's filled with dirt, kind of slowly giving you a little hint of, like, a little bit more of the flashback of that. All of it leading to the fact that Seth has passed, and it was a very tragic way to go because he lost the fight to his mental illness and he took his own life. What is unique about it is that it wasn't necessarily the plan. Things happened where we couldn't, quite get what we wanted fully with my original script. And we had to kind of navigate a way around Seth in a bit. But it kind of forced us to look at, well, if the movie was about Seth trying to find Chloe before the worst happened, what if we reverse it and the worst happens, where Chloe loses her brother? And I think it motivated me to really write something different and change the script when we originally had Seth being a heavy part of this. Well, what do I do now with this information, and how do I get Chloe to still pay tribute to the legacy of Seth and all the work that Colby did, because Colby did an amazing job as Seth, but also create a new narrative that allows Chloe to, become a better character. And having this happen and all that, I think it's just like, it raised the stakes for Chloe because she is now in an all or nothing stage. And I think that opens up emotions that aren't necessarily healthy. I think they're impulsive. I think you go down a very dark path when you have nothing left to go back to. And doing that and having her wear that mask the whole time, I think it brought out, a bit of a better story, I think, for Chloe, as hard as it is. And I mean, that scene was hard. That was another example of how good our cast and crew was, because they respected the fact that this was a heavy scene. Everybody was very quiet that day. Like, they gave everybody their space. And because of that, Ryan and Chloe were able to, just perform their asses off and really make it feel very important that this happened. We have moments where she says, I'm meeting up with my brother soon. I hope it doesn't take too long. That was a collaborative effort between me and Phoebe, talking about, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, that means that she was considering going down that route as well, because she couldn't handle it anymore, and she was dealing with so much heaviness that we're meeting up soon. I hope it doesn't take long. That's a direct line to, I might go the way of my brother soon because I can't handle this anymore. And there's so many deep, immature moments like that Phoebe just she nailed it, and it was amazing. And I think the weight of it adds so much to it. And I think too, when you think the story's going one way, I think this moment and this reveal completely derails it. And now the best thing is too, it's the first time that our three mains, Chloe, Sarah, and Ryan, are in the same room. So now we're really off, and now we'll kind of complete our story. But yeah, it was hard to write too, because I was very close to Seth. Seth has a lot of, I think, me in him, and to not kind of have that availability. Not that Chloe didn't want to do it, but just industry processes and stuff, it just couldn't happen. But having that character be killed off screen in the way that he is, it was hard. But I think in the end it served a better purpose, and I think the legacy of Seth is there in respected, and it also just kind of helps Chloe's character. So yeah, it's hard, it's heartbreaking, it's a very hard episode to get through, but I think it's necessary in building up those three characters, and seeing Ryan too. Once she hears that he's dead, she expects a different reaction, I think. She expects to feel good, because that's what she wants, and immediately you can tell on her face, like, wait, what am I feeling? Am I feeling remorse? What's going on? She doesn't expect it, it comes out of nowhere, and she does not feel the way that she thinks she was supposed to feel.
Yeah, I think you just perfectly summed that all up, because I to be honest, I had trouble saying anything about it. I had trouble finding words, just because you're right, like it's just such a devastating event that comes out of nowhere. It's a little bit of a punch in the face.
It's a double thing too, because like you think the big reveal is Lana leaving, and then I don't think anybody's ready for like, oh, by the way, we have another heart punch. Now that you're like, oh man, I'm heartbroken because this thing, well, here's the second hit that you didn't see coming.
It's
so,
awful,
yeah.
Dillon. It's awful, because you're like, yeah, Sarah and Chloe are finally back together, but this bad thing happened to Sarah, and then you're like, oh, Chloe and Ryan are back together. Nope. This bad. You just can't let us be happy.
No, I'm not good at that.
You're gonna keep us knocked down at all times.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Dillon, this was a very hard episode to get through.
Yep.
But it was so worth it. Everybody is crying though through it. I know. How about you? Are you crying? How do you feel?
I feel like a jerk saying this, but I kind of hope that's the case, because then it means like emotionally we got there. But no, it was a hard episode. In editing it and watching it and everything, like it was difficult, but it also felt like the right decision. And to do anything else, I think would have been disrespectful to the story itself and like cowardly. So being able to do it and like doing it in a proper way, I think, I think it worked. The episode is hard. It's the most emotional episode of the entire series, and I think it comes at the perfect time to turn the audience onto a new path and an unexpected path for the show, and now we can, do the final 2 episodes with really no idea where it's going. So that to me is exciting, and the emotional performances of everybody, it's just like, it raised the bar of acting here in Nova Scotia, so it's very exciting, yeah.
I think so too. And you're right, like very sad, but now all of their past is kind of wrapped up.
And now boom, now they're
and
together.
now they're together and they're moving forward, and let's see what happens.
There we go. Can't get any worse from here, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's all good, I think. You want to watch it? Do you want to see how bad this gets? Okay, yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
Dude, I'm just so scared.
Do you need a break?
Maybe,
Okay.
honestly, maybe.
We'll get some Kleenex in here.
Thank you.
I'm so tired of running. I am so tired of not being able to trust a single person I meet. I'm so sick of my family.